As we know, we're now living in overly sensitive times. If you address someone without using their preferred pronouns or the way they describe themselves to the letter, even if you've never met them before, then you are automatically a bigot and all the ifs and isms will be attached to your good name. But what about when there are words and phrases which have been used for centuries? Everyone knows what they mean, but suddenly they become problematic in the eyes of some. Almost like the language has to be changed retrospectively. Well, that's what's happening at several British museums because they're banning one word. And that word is mummy. And I'm not talking about the way that posh British people refer to their mothers, hello mummy. I mean the Egyptian mummies. But apparently that word is now dehumanising and offensive. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that someone who's been dead for 3,000 years probably isn't that bothered. If you're watching this from overseas and you're wondering how come so many British museums have Egyptian artefacts, well, that harks back to the glory days of empire. Some people say removing those goods was looting or plunder, but the way that the British Empire operated was that the Brits would rock up at another country, preferably where the locals hadn't yet developed ballistic technology, and would announce, this is our country now, anyone who doesn't agree is getting shot. It is amazing that this tiny little nation is responsible for more Independence Days than anywhere else on Earth. So the museums are now using phrases like mummified person or mummified remains. But the word mummy is used because it derives from the Arabic word mumia, which means bitumen, which is part of the embalming process. It's also worth noting that the word mummy to refer to entombed Egyptians has been in use in the English language for over 400 years. Why is it now a fucking problem? And if the phrase mummy is now somehow dehumanising, what actually took place in the mummification process? Well, once the person had died, they'd have all their body hair shaved off. They would then have a hole smashed through their skull and have their brains whisked up until they turned into a liquid and could be poured out. All the bodily fluids would be drained, the organs would also be removed and put into separate pots. The body would then be stuffed like some bizarre taxidermy, coated in bitumen, wrapped in bandages and then put in a sarcophagus with a picture of them on it. But the word mummy is dehumanising. It's also worth noting that many pharaohs and their queens didn't live that long, because incest was rife. In order to keep the royal bloodline pure, brothers would marry sisters and then have offspring. It's no wonder that Tutankhamun had so many birth defects. He must have been like the Egyptian equivalent of that kid playing the banjos in Deliverance. And I'm saying this, and I grew up in Norfolk. There's an acronym used by the British military, NFN, that's normal for Norfolk. And going back to dehumanising, when a pharaoh died, it wasn't just him that was mummified. Animals would be slaughtered and mummified, and even servants. People would be murdered so they could serve the pharaoh in the afterlife. What colossal narcissist does that? Gives the order that when I die, kill everyone else and bury me in a fucking pyramid as a tribute to my ego. When it comes to ancient Egypt, the people I feel most sorry for are the architects, the geniuses who designed the pyramids. I mean, they use slave labour, so it's not all good. But these incredible feats of engineering which are mathematically perfect. And I feel sorry for them because now, in the 21st century, there are a few lunatics wearing tinfoil hats claiming they were made by the aliens. I also think the timing couldn't be worse for these museums because Brendan Fraser is up for Best Actor for his role in The Whale. And that means his earlier film, The Mummy, is going to be everywhere. If you live in the UK, you'll know this. If you put on ITV2 at any time of day or night, they're always showing the fucking mummy. Finally, if we're going to start looking back at history and changing words and phrases because they could be problematic, how far can we actually go with this? Because I'm British, can I sue the Italians because the Romans invaded and enslaved the British? And I'll say I'm still feeling that pain after all my family's generations. Then after that I can sue the Angles, the Saxons, the Picts, the Celts, the Vikings and the Normans. Actually, I probably can't do that because I have a ridiculous Scandinavian surname and it's very likely my family were mercenaries working for the Vikings. As ever, thanks for watching.